Well, welcome back to Bold Line, where we talk about people and partnerships shaping Central Florida's success. I'm Pam Nabors, President and CEO of CareerSource Central Florida. Today's episode is a really exciting one because it represents what happens when vision and partnership and purpose come together with one goal in mind. And we're going to be talking with Frank Martz, City Manager of the City of Altamonte Springs in Florida, a very important municipality here in Central Florida. We're going to talk about workforce development, business, and economic growth close to home and throughout the region. Let me tell you a little bit about Frank before I welcome him onto the podcast. He is, as I said, the city manager for Altamonte Springs. He has served in that position since 2010. He has also been named one of Central Florida's most influential leaders by the Orlando Business Journal just in 2025. Congratulations on that. In 2025, he expanded autonomous mobility through crane rides and introduced hands-on government career opportunities with the City Career Accelerator, setting new standards for local government achievement. He has also, importantly for the city, maintained one of Florida's lowest tax rates, low utility costs, and 13 plus years of debt-free operation. He has founded the Altamonte Springs Science Incubator, AS21, for STEM education, which has impacted over 35,000 students, and launched Altamonte Global Innovation Lab, which is nationally and globally known to advance real-world AI development and STEM education. I am so honored, Frank, to have you join me today. So welcome.
Thank you so much, Pam.
Well, so Frank, before we talk about all of the amazing things that you've done in your career, I have a little question to get to know you a little bit. So you've probably seen these kinds of questions here and there where I ask you this or that. Do you prefer? So not too tough, okay?
Okay.
So here's an easy one. Baseball or football?
Baseball.
And who's your team?
The Baltimore Orioles.
Ah, Baltimore. Okay, okay. A beach vacation, or do you like to go to the mountains or the country?
Beach.
Ah, me too. Me too. Steak dinner or taco night with Nicole?
Wow. Steak dinner with Nicole.
Ah, very nice. Coffee or tea in the morning?
Coffee.
Yeah, me too. And are you an early morning person or are you more energized later in the day?
Honestly, I roll out of bed pretty excited every day about the stuff that I get to do, and then
Uh-huh.
so I'm an early morning and a late at night guy. I stay pretty active and on the move for most of the day.
Oh, nice. Little siesta maybe in the 4 o'clock hour.
No, I know
Yeah,
I'm booked. I'm double booked at meetings at 4 o'clock.
I hear you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I am definitely an early morning person, much more energized, but same thing, you got to keep going.
Yeah.
So that kind of leads us right into it's kind of understanding and having you tell us a little bit about how you became the city manager of the city of Altamonte Springs. Did you know you wanted to be a city manager when you were a kid?
Oh my God, no. When I was young, I wanted to be two things. I wanted to be a Major League Baseball player, or I wanted to be a lawyer. Those were the
Ah,
things that I wanted to be. And I was fortunate enough to be a pretty good baseball player, a pretty good football player, and I got a scholarship to play baseball in college. Was invited to the U.S. Olympic trials for baseball. Was eventually drafted by the Baltimore Orioles. And
really? Oh,
yeah,
that's so cool.
yeah. My dream of being a Major League Baseball player was confronted with, I tore a nerve in my shoulder. So,
Oh no.
so I was good at teaching baseball, in addition to playing it. So I stayed in the Orioles organization and the Cubs organization as an instructor for a couple of years, did some scouting as well, and was headed to law school
Hmm.
and um, uh, needed to do an internship for graduate school. And someone said, "Well, there's this city called Altamont Springs, and we think you'd be perfect for it." So I'd never heard of Altamont Springs, didn't know where the Altamont Mall was, but I was living here while I was playing baseball. The Orioles paid for me to go to Rollins and finish my undergraduate education.
Excellent.
So I was here, but I was headed someplace else, and I came here, And I don't know what it was. I know my predecessor was a very innovative guy. I love the organizational culture. Now, I didn't know anything about innovation, didn't know anything about organizational culture. All I know is it just kind of felt good, and it was a good fit, and it stayed a good fit. So each time that I got ready to go to law school, I got opportunities here that were intriguing to me, and 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 honestly never thought about being a city manager. But what I learned about myself is that that my takeaways from baseball, Pam, really shaped me.
Hmm.
And I really loved being part of a team. And then when I was instructing, I loved seeing people get better. I
Yeah.
loved the impact of that. And what I learned is that when you are lucky enough to work with people that you really like, doing something that you really like, that resonates with you, the way that public service resonates with me,
Hmm.
um, uh, be smart. You don't have to always go someplace else. Make where you are as great as it can be. And when I got the opportunity, my predecessor was retiring after 27 years. When I got the opportunity to lead, to be a, government CEO,
Hmm.
CEO at all, uh, it was just perfect timing, perfect place. And that's my journey, Pam.
That's really cool. I mean, you truly are in your dream job. For our listeners who may not be in Florida, tell them what makes Altamont Springs, Florida special.
Um, you know, so I used to have a really good stock answer to that, but I'll tell you, here's what I think makes Altamont Springs special. It's that we we are just like 1,000 other communities in the United States. I think the difference is that we take risks and we try to run our government very much like a private business. We ask ROI questions.
Hmm.
We ask questions about what is our why? How do we execute? A lot of the things that I learned when I played baseball, like being prepared not just to succeed, but being prepared so that you never fail.
Hmm.
Um, and I think that some of what makes us special really comes from my predecessor and the people who led the city long before I ever got here. And that was being small as an advantage
Hmm.
and learning to leverage that and having aspirations well beyond, what you normally would be expected to have. I think that's one of the things that makes us special.
Yes, absolutely. And, that leads me right into, some of the credentials I mentioned for you at the top of our podcast today have to do with the Science Incubator and the Innovation Lab, inside of Altamont Springs. Talk a little bit about those and how they have impacted the growth in the city and really how that kind of innovation has created partnerships that have grown well beyond Altamont Springs.
So the Altamont Springs Science Incubator, was an outgrowth of a program in Seminole County that was about to close. That was a rite of passage for kids, walking through muck and riverine systems and being really connected to, the environment and to the ecological circumstances around them. And it was running up against some difficult funding choices that our county was trying to make. And I'd seen at firsthand, because my kids went to Seminole County Public Schools, I got to see firsthand what that experience was like. And I believe that the easiest group of people to teach are kids.
Mhm.
If you talk to kids about very adult things, you'll be surprised how well they understand them. So we started to think about, well, how do we impact this? How do we make sure that that opportunity remains out there? And we called the sponsors and the founders of the a then existing Environmental Resource Center, Pam, and we said, come to Altamont Springs, we'll build it for free. And we did. We went out and got private sector partners with Duke Energy and Advent Health.
Mhm.
And we have a number of families that sponsor college scholarships. Um, the um, the Ansara family sponsored scholarships for many years. The Freeman family, former Judge Freeman, Judge Melanie Chase, their lawyer sister, Nancy Freeman, they fund college scholarships, so it's all privately funded.
Hmm.
That's how AS2I became a thing, and we partnered with Seminole County Public Schools to make this part of the curriculum. And it was it was purposeful, and 35,000 kids and more than 20 college scholarships later, it's still
Yeah.
going strong. And the Altamont Global Innovation Lab had a different birth point. We've been doing innovative projects for many, many years. We have done projects that have won international innovation awards, some as far away as in Tokyo, Japan.
Hmm.
And we've had a lot of people come to us and want to look at some of those projects. And we started thinking, well, just like AS2I, like, we've got an opportunity to showcase some things and to learn from others. Let's try to do that with innovation. So the Altamont Global Innovation Lab started last year. We've got more than 40 partners. CareerSource Central Florida is a partner. And what we are doing is finding ways to onboard national and international companies, create workforce development programs of many different sorts for many different types of students so that we can start to pipeline talent for those companies that we're trying to attract. We most recently made, and this will be news for you because you have not heard this yet, we've
Hmm.
signed a memorandum of understanding with the American Korean Chamber of Commerce to recruit South Korean innovation companies into Seminole County and Central Florida and to Florida. And the Altamont Global Innovation Lab has already brought United Kingdom business here, and we're working with more European partners as well. The relationship between the two and how they got birthed, different reasons, different whys, but they have to do with economic development and sustainability. Without positive economic development, without a robust economy, there are not going to be jobs for the kids who live here now.
Right.
So we need to think not only how do we stimulate the economy in a healthy way, because we do not believe in tax incentives here. We do not give away public money. We spend
Mhm.
public money on public things. But um, but with your partnership with Seminole State College, with Florida State College of Jacksonville, UCF, a number of Florida State, we have the opportunity to provide workforce development opportunities for young people to be prepared to compete in a changing economy that's changing faster, frankly, than education is. And
Yes.
along the
Yes.
way, we've hired some of them. So we're also building our own workforce. So we're not just talking the talk, we're walking the walk. And we're in those ways, the AS2I program and the Agile, we call Altamont Global Innovation Agile because we
Hmm.
intend to be agile. And in those two ways, there are great similarities. You give people opportunities, you invite people in to be part of your innovative process. They bring great ideas to you, you bring great ideas to them. Together, we're able to sometimes figure out where there are problems with ideas and make them stronger. So those are some of the touch points that I would say that connect the dots between the two.
Yes, I love that. And, I have really appreciated our partnership. I think for the workforce development system, in Florida as well as nationally, partnerships, with our municipalities like we have here with Altamont Springs are really critical because also where Altamont Springs is, located adjacent, to north of our largest city, Orlando, there are people who don't necessarily get exposed to all of the great opportunities that exist, in and around the city. And then, of course, the theme parks are even further to the south. And what I've always been attracted, to in partnering with you is this sense of innovation and you truly, walk the talk. You partnered with CareerSource Central Florida to have interns to actually take our young people and teach them about the workings of a city. How do you make a city work in all the various departments? And now we have a new partnership with the Altamonte Springs Library. We're actually
Mhm.
creating a community hub there, which is a micro a career center that we're bringing our resources together with your resources there to further serve the population in that part of our region. So, your innovative spirit is really, really welcome. And I think it is a great model for the workforce system, across the country, as well as, we learn from you and all of the innovation that you do. The other thing, you are also, I think, you are willing to experiment and take little risks. I mentioned that you have crane, it's crane rides that is in the cranes
Trained Roost.
Crane
Yeah.
Roost. I was a Crane Roost area of Altamont Springs, which is an autonomous vehicle, right?
We do. We started doing autonomous transportation piloting about 3 years ago, partnered with the state of Florida. And that came on the heels of a lot of things that people in Central Florida don't know. Altamont Springs actually founded the Commuter Rail Authority. Its first office was in our city hall. We've always believed that transit was part of Florida's future. And then about a decade ago, we became the first city in the world to partner with Uber for public transportation. We were the first. We did not know we were the first city in the world. Uber told us that we've never done this before, and then we started looking at autonomous vehicles. We all are served through autonomous mechanisms every day. We just don't realize
Right,
it,
right.
but we don't see them. But a lot of the goods and services that are delivered to our doorsteps and to stores are delivered at some point in their supply chain through autonomous
Mhm.
motility. So using it for public transportation it is our future. It will be part of our future. The question is it an affordable part of our current day?
Mhm.
Because you pay for technology and we have to figure those things out. But
Yes.
what you said at the outset, I say this very often, Pam, there's no reward for risk in government. If everyone who runs government takes no risks at all, we would still have the same problematic water sources and
Mhm.
sewer treatment disposal processes. At some point, people along the way, not just our city, but many others, said, there's got to be a better way. And the first person to try anything always has taken the most risk. And
Yes.
we're very comfortable. And it's part of our ecosystem here, Pam. We
Yes.
what I'm the CEO of a city, and my job sometimes includes ideas, and sometimes my only job is to be a shield. That while really smart people, well-meaning people who want to do good for the community are trying to pull something off, sometimes my job and sometimes your job, you're the CEO at CareerSource Central Florida, is to make sure that the people who are pursuing those good ideas are able to see them through.
Mhm.
And but man, is it a risky environment these days.
Most definitely. And very, very visible and public environment these days too, right?
Absolutely.
But I bet businesses in Altamont Springs are really looking at the city as their partner, differently than they have, in the past. I think, what are you hearing from businesses? What do you see on the horizon, as it relates to what they need in workforce? As well as, what kind of resources they need to be innovative themselves and continue to grow.
Well, one of the things that we're doing through the Altamont Global Innovation Lab is we're building a Buy America, Build America advisory service so that
Mm,
as we are able to get businesses who are outside of the United States positioned to come into our economy, we can give them advice about how to do that.
mhm,
At the same time, there are businesses in the United States and in Seminole County, in Central Florida overall, in Altamont Springs, that have to navigate supply chains. So
mhm,
having the ability to give that type of advice really is helpful. But it also extends over to workforce development. There is, people have different feelings about artificial intelligence and those sorts of things. I venture to say that everyone thought that the entire automotive industry would go away with catalytic converters. That didn't happen. That when the rotary dial phones were
Right.
replaced by digital phones, that when when I was a kid, there were four channels. You
Hmm.
know, those are all places of evolution.
Right.
And the workforce development needs for Central Florida and for Altamonte Springs and the businesses that are here. Um, really trend to those base level understandings and base level technical abilities. The ability to do math
Hmm.
and is not as strong as it once was. The
Hmm.
calculator replaced a lot of that. AI is now going to replace almost all of that.
Right.
So I think we're hearing a couple of different touch points along the workforce development pathway. The first is that there needs to be a uh, basic skill set to use AI, understand what it is, not how to build it,
Hmm.
but how not to be afraid of it
Right.
and what some of the terms mean, so that when someone throws the term large language model out at you, you don't blank, that
Hmm.
you have some understanding of that. So part of the first level of workforce development are really in those basic skills of advanced technology.
Hmm.
Um, the second part of it is the importance to learn to communicate in a business setting.
Hmm.
One of the things that we've worked together on,
Yes.
and we really focus very strongly on here organizationally, is how do you conduct yourself as a professional, and the
Hmm.
importance of verbal communication. Because AI will be able to translate what you say. You can speak into an AI engine and have it write your letters and emails for you. But the ability to communicate and translate your thoughts into words is a lesser focused on, but I think growing and increasing in importance in terms of that skill set.
Yes.
How do you verbally communicate? And the other thing that we are getting just a really interesting insight into is the importance of being able to maintain the new systems.
Hmm.
Um, you know, I heard Jamie Dimon say this, plumbers and electricians,
Hmm.
those vocational skills, those tactile skills are in growing demand. And
Hmm.
it is coming at a time when I think the workforce that is in place now, especially those late teens, early 20s, first entry into the workforce
Hmm.
folks, have grown up with a different sense of what workforce looks like. And as a
Right.
consequence, they don't have the same willingness to be flexible. Most recently, I was talking to someone who was looking to change jobs, but they wanted to make the same amount of money and be able to dress the way they were dressing. It wasn't about, can I pay my bills? What are my benefits?
Yeah.
So I think one of the places where I think our workforce development challenges, and I think where we are collaborating very well, is actually infusing some reality into job searching and some reality into job placement.
Yes.
So places where I believe local governments Agile, for example, every single government in Seminole County is a member of Agile. City of Winter Garden just joined. We're talking to a city in North Carolina about joining. And all of that is through the use of technology and then finding ways to collaborate and at the same time not have everyone doing the same thing in 7 or 8 different places. If
Hmm.
there's a way to do a type of training in the city of Oviedo and all of our folks go to the city of Oviedo to learn something, that helps to save taxpayers money. And from a
Yes.
workforce development standpoint, what we also are enabling is that people who otherwise would have only had one experience now have several different types. And I think that's one of the great things about CareerSource Central Florida and about the relationship that we've built between our organizations. It is, how do we get people as close to getting a job as they possibly can get so they can go out and compete for jobs, not
Yes.
just a job. And
Yes.
and I think from a workforce development standpoint, that's one of those critical pathways for readiness.
Yes, I think you have really touched down on a critical piece. And what we hear from that Gen Z generation is that they don't have enough confidence necessarily to go and get the job. They really need to have a kind of a tryout, an internship, or even an apprenticeship opportunity. And that is really needed from our business community, from our municipal partners. We are very grateful to Altamonte Springs for stepping up into the internship space with us. Because I think you're absolutely right. The three skills that you talked about, understanding AI, communicating, and really also supporting our infrastructure systems are things that are really programmed into all of here at CareerSource Central Florida, our workforce efforts, as well as, across our workforce system in the country. So I'm cognizant of time. We're coming towards the end. I do want to mention, though, you should talk about the fact that not only does Springs have crane rides, but it also has Red Hot and Boom in the summertime over July 4th. And I think last year you had 400,000 people there.
Not
Is that
not quite that many,
not
but
quite 4K? Okay,
yeah.
400K.
So when we had this summer, America's 250th
Yes.
anniversary, it coincides with this summer's festivities. But if there's good weather and it's the weekend, we've had as many as 250,000
Oh,
people.
250. Okay. I
And
was a little,
250,000
I'm like
people.
shooting higher for you.
No, that's great. But please don't. But we have the largest or one of the largest fireworks programs in the state of
Yes.
Florida. We last year we shot one firework every 9 seconds
Wow.
for almost a half an hour. So
Amazing.
it's really a wonderful thing. It's a great, again, we're plugging interns into how do you do
Yes.
events and
Yes.
how do you do maintenance of traffic. We take them to meetings about contract negotiations. So Crane, Red Hot and Boom, our kind of our signature event.
Mhm.
It has gotten to the point where it is really large and might even be outgrowing us. But we're doing our best to try to continue delivering services to our residents. The biggest challenge in Florida, as you know, is there is I think a really drastic misunderstanding of what property taxes really are and what they pay for.
Mhm.
So we're all kind of sitting back, waiting to see if the legislature is really going to do anything. Unfortunately, they've not asked a lot of cities or counties what impact will this have, what services will go away, so we're hopeful that the legislature recognizes that some of us are doing good things and partnerships with CareerSource in having internships and workforce
Yes.
development, trying to grow our own stuff. A lot of that stuff is paid for by the revenues that we receive, and
Uh-huh.
we're really hopeful, crossing our fingers, hoping for the
Yes.
greater good in everyone.
Absolutely, absolutely. So if people want to find out more about Altamont Springs, also you have incredible natural springs that are a part of the city itself. It's really, really a place to visit, both for our local population and people who are visiting here. How can they find out more?
Well, www.altamont.org is a
Okay.
place where you can go learn about our services. We have an innovation tab there. We have our basic services that are there. There's a portal to email me directly. We are all very, very accessible here at the City of Altamonte Springs to residents anywhere. We have a very business-oriented way of looking at this, Pam. We see our residents and businesses as shareholders. We see ourselves as a company that has a fiduciary responsibility to them. And part of that duty is to be available. So those are the way to find us. We're on LinkedIn, we're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, we're on Instagram, we're in all of those good places. But if you can find a phone number for the City of Altamonte Springs and you ask for Frank, it will get to me.
I love it. I love it. Well, I really truly appreciate your partnership. And as I said, your partnership has really been a model that I have talked about. And also we've taken and looked at other municipalities around our own region to create these kinds of partnerships. But you're really the first for us. It's really wonderful. And I just want to thank you again for joining me on Bold Line today and sharing the amazing work you're doing in Altamont Springs and your perspective on workforce. It's really critical. To our listeners, thank you for tuning in. And if you want to learn more about how education and workforce development connect right here in Central Florida, be sure to follow us and join the conversation. We'll see you next time.
Thank you, Pam.